Be like you're in the dentist chair and they're poking around, everything's fine, but then they touch that one spot, and, and you realize, oh no, it's because something got stuck there and it's festered and it's rotted and it's contaminated things. And sometimes we have those things in our own life and they touch that little button and we go off. And we all have that.
We all do.
So working on those little things ourselves.
Well, we're here in the kitchen with Mike and Diane, Pinball, and Dan and Danielle. And so Dr. Mullen, some of the things he was saying maybe are a little foreign to you as he's talking about the kingdom of light, kingdom of darkness, and Satan, and some of these things that you might be thinking, what's he talking about? What's that all about? But the truth is there's more than meets the eye in this world. There's a whole other kind of a spiritual realm that we don't often think about or talk about, that we need to, because there is an enemy out there whose job it is, the Bible says, to steal, kill, and destroy, and that includes your marriage. And so we need to be aware of that and talk about it.
And you know what? The enemy's tactics, and the Bible defines the enemy as Satan. Satan's tactics to destroy your marriage, some of them are bold and in your face. Others are very subtle and very small, but they just chip away at you slowly, at your relationship. And so it's important that we identify who that enemy is and what his tactics are, what his wedges are that he uses to get in between us. As we're trying to create a better us, we've got somebody pushing against us. And so it's important, like you said, Ron, to identify that there is a kingdom of darkness out there that's really working hard to tear us down. And I'm sure we've all found that in our relationships.
And we have those, three parts in us: body, soul, and spirit. And so understanding kind of how they relate together is so important in having a great marriage.
Absolutely.
Einstein suggested any fool can confound a matter. It actually takes a real stroke of genius to make something complicated seem simple. And Danielle actually referred to that and how simple he made this idea, this concept, and talking about body, soul, and spirit. And the reality is, one of the most magnificent things we can give our spouse, our significant other, is a whole person, right? It's us working on ourselves. Fractions in this case are terrible, right? And many people will agree fractions are awful all the time, right? But in this case, 1/3 or 2/3 of a person just doesn't work, right? 1 + 1 is wonderful, right? That leads to a great relationship. And I think he referred to that whole person and 1 + 1. So one of the greatest gifts we can give our mate is just to be whole ourselves, working on a whole person, being complete ourselves. And adversity is going to come. James 1 talks about, consider it pure joy when you experience adversity. And in verse 4, it winds up like this: because as we go through adversity, we become complete and lacking in nothing, or that whole person.
That's it. And it's important to realize that we can only become whole through a relationship with God through Jesus Christ.
And that's what I was about to say, because there's so many people today that are broken and just trying to find their way. And we see all around us, our friends and just people that we know, their marriages are just torn apart. Every day there's someone new that's dealing with marriage issues, or they're getting a divorce, or they're seeking for counsel. It's just all around us, and it's because we are so broken and we don't know where or who to turn to.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and Mike, you said one thing when you were talking, that we have to work on ourselves. It's up to us to own that. And now, all of this is so much bigger than ourselves, all of the spiritual, the physical, all of that. But I know, as a wife, I can be guilty of wanting to fix my spouse. Maybe the women are a little bit more.
Never.
But we can't do it.
Really?
We can't do that. That's not on us. We have to take ownership, and then we have to allow the Lord to do that. The women, before marriage, we have one thing in mind. We think of Him and the altar, and then after marriage, we think about altering Him. But that's not, it's too big for us to handle on our own. We need to go to God. We need to go to counselors, pastors, like he said.
It's been said that a marriage is only as healthy as the least healthy person in it.
That's right.
Right. So, I mean, I love the idea of working on yourself. And because I think we've said before, sometimes we're fighting about something and what we're fighting about is not really what the problem is. And if there's underlying issues that he's talking about that are going on in us, it's like it's sabotaging things. And I loved how he said that he was going along with the idea at first. He was being polite and respectful, and I'm actually wondering how many men are watching this show right now out of being polite and respectful. But hey, that's a great thing.
It
That's
works
a great
for them.
That's a great start if you want to start there. And then he realized, oh wait, I have issues too. And I loved when he said the idea of baggage and do you have baggage? Well, do you ever overreact at anything? And I was like, oh, guilty as charged. Be like you're in the dentist chair and they're poking around, everything's fine, but then they touch that one spot, and you realize, oh no, it's because something got stuck there and it's festered and it's rotted and it's contaminated things. And sometimes we have those things in our own life, and they touch that little button and we go off, and we all have that.
We all do.
Yeah.
So working on those little things ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to be comfortable with saying that we have an issue, right? Because sometimes we try to hide it and we try to cover it up, and that doesn't help anything. And the Bible tells us that we should be anxious for nothing and let His peace be within us. Because if we have that peace within us, then it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to work through those issues because He's got our backs.
Yeah, Dr. Mullen said, that our personality or the soul part of us is shaped by our past or our interpretation of those past events. And those are those ouch points that are below the surface that you don't know why you overreact, but it's there. And that's where, the right counselor, someone that can help identify that and just deal with it and even bring it to God in prayer and ask God to heal that area, and He will, and make a huge difference.
And I love how Dr. Mullen started that teaching by identifying the fact that there is an enemy who's standing against our marriage. And so that, to me, just prompts me want to join forces all the more with this guy and stand against what he's
Realize
throwing at
that
us.
they are not the enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
That there is an enemy.
There is an
and
enemy,
you are
and
together.
he's attacking what we have.
Trying to drive wedges in between us.
Exactly. But when we are strong with God's help, then we can withstand anything the enemy of our marriage can throw at us. In fact, we need to daily stand strong together with God, praying together every single day, recognizing those things the enemy is throwing at us.
The lies.
The lies,
The
exactly.
mind is the battlefield.
Oh,
too.
and sometimes the enemy of your marriage can just start to sow things in your mind, thoughts in your mind, like, oh, it really bugs me when he does that. Oh, he's doing it again. But we've got to, like the Bible says, take every thought captive and say, wait a second, no. I'm not falling for that. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, enemy of my marriage. No. I'm going to focus on all the things I love about this guy. Sure, I've got things that I can complain about, but he's got things he can complain about with me too. And so, but if we focus on the positive,
Let's talk about those things.
maybe one or two, yeah, not much.
Okay.
But yeah, as we stand strong together, then we can stand against anything the enemy throws at us.
Well, when we come back, Dr. Mullen is going to go a little further with us than this whole area of mood disorders and how it affects marriage. All right, don't go away.
Stay with us.